En passant is a French word which means in passing. It is a special type of capturing move in chess that occurs when a pawn captures a horizontally adjacent enemy pawn that has just made an initial 2-square advance. So let's understand this concept with the help of this example. So here it is white's turn to move. And white plays g3. So what will black play now? Obviously f into g3. He will capture white's pawn. So because playing the pawn 1 square ahead makes the enemy pawn to capture it, white now decides to place the pawn 2 squares ahead like this. And now because of this move, this enemy pawn sitting over here was not able to capture this pawn because that pawn over here skipped past the enemy pawn without getting captured. And this seems a bit unfair to the black because the black player did not get a chance to capture the enemy pawn and the white pawn could just safely skip past the black pawn. So to maintain fairness in the game, en passant rule was introduced. And the en passant rule states that if a player tries to skip past an enemy pawn by moving 2 squares ahead, then the enemy pawn has the right to capture this pawn. So here in this case, now if black wants, black can capture this pawn by the en passant rule. So the white pawn would go off the board and the black pawn would come on a square which the white pawn has just passed. Now let's look at a couple of more examples to understand how exactly to do en passant. So let's say it is white's turn in the game. White moves his pawn directly 2 squares ahead, e4, and now because this white pawn has safely skipped past the enemy pawn can now capture this white pawn by the en passant rule, like this. Now it is white's turn. Let's say white plays his king and now it is black's turn in the game. Now let's say black moves his pawn directly 2 squares ahead and skip past the enemy pawn next to him, like this. So now white pawn can capture this pawn by the en passant rule. Now, since you have understood the en passant move, let's understand one important condition if you plan to play en passant. And that is that if you want to capture an enemy pawn by the en passant rule, you should do it immediately after that pawn has moved 2 squares ahead. So, for example, in this case, if white plays e4 and black doesn't capture this pawn, let's say black plays some another move. Let's say he moves his king in the game and now it's white's turn. White will move his king and now it's black's turn and blacks decide, oh, you know what? This pawn just safely passed 2 squares next to me. Let me now capture it by en passant. So if the black pawn now tries to capture this pawn with the en passant rule, then that is not allowed. So the condition that you have to follow is that if you want to capture any pawn by the en passant rule, you should capture that pawn immediately after it has moved 2 squares ahead. So in this case, because this pawn did not capture immediately after this 2 square move, now this black pawn has lost the right to capture this pawn by the en passant rule. So if black wants to capture this pawn, then it is black's turn now and he should do it immediately in this move and not later in the game, because that would not be allowed. En passant is one of the important concepts in chess, and if you are learning this concept for the first time, then do like this video and subscribe to my channel to learn more such interesting concepts. Now let's practice some puzzles on en passant. For each puzzle, I'll give you 5 seconds to think, but if you need more time, then feel free to pause the video. So here is the first puzzle for you. Black has 2 pawns over here, but he wants to avoid en passant in the game. So if he wants to avoid en passant, which pawn should he push forward in the game? Your time starts now. Now obviously if black wants to avoid en passant, he shouldn't push this pawn ahead because we can see that there is an enemy pawn sitting over here. So the correct answer is he should push the A pawn ahead so that he can easily promote this pawn into a queen and win this game. Let's look at puzzle number 2. It was white's turn in the game and white played the move f4. And because white's pawn moved 2 squares forward, black has the right to capture this pawn by the en passant rule. Now the key question is, from which of these pawns should black capture this pawn? Should black capture with the G pawn or should he capture with the E pawn? Which of these would be the best move for black? Your time starts now. So let's look at both the cases. Let's say black captures with his G pawn. So what would black achieve? Nothing, except that he can just check the king and the king will move out of that square, and now black hasn't achieved any serious advantage in this position because white still has a queen on the board and white's game is stronger than black. But if black captures by his E pawn, then he would immediately win this game. How? Well, because capturing with the E pawn is not only giving check to the white king, but is also revealing a discovered attack on the white's queen. White has to deal with the check first, so he will move his king, and now black can capture this queen for free. So the correct answer is black should capture with his E pawn. Now let's look at the third puzzle. White moves his pawn directly 2 squares forward. And now it is black's turn. So how can black capture this pawn? Should he play en passant move or should he capture this pawn with his queen? What would be the best move for black? Your time starts now. So here, if black decides to capture with his B pawn, then black would immediately lose the game because white can now checkmate black's game by playing rook to b8. Notice the black king cannot capture this rook because he is being protected by the other rook on the same file. So the correct answer to this puzzle is black should capture this pawn with his queen. So in the game, you will get opportunity to play en passant moves, but it is not compulsory to play en passant moves every time. If you want to solve more such interesting puzzles, then I would recommend you to join one of my membership programs. And now, here is the question of the day for you. White has just moved his pawn 2 squares forward by playing a4, and now black has the option of capturing this pawn by playing the en passant move. But the question is, should black capture this pawn by en passant? Will it benefit black? Comment with a yes or a no, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, keep learning, keep practicing.